Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome inside the Guilty as Charged podcast, coming to you live on a Saturday for a Q&A. Our last Q&A before football is officially back, at least Chargers football, that is. Training camp, of course, starting on Wednesday. So excited to be here, excited to talk football with my guys, Tyler and Alex. Tyler, we'll start with you, man. How are you doing today?
I'm very excited. We are so close. I know we have an episode tomorrow, so I'll say the same thing, but gosh, we are so close to training camp. I loved the content we did over the summer, but it's time. I'm so excited. It's a great year. I'm a season ticket holder. Herbert's the quarterback. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I've been scheduling some interviews over the last week or so. Watching some film, and instead of like talking about, my mindset has just kind of like naturally shifted to, instead of like, oh shit, like, Kaiser White, Linval Joseph, it's like, okay, this is what this defense could look like for Derwin James. This is what it could look like for Joey Bosa this year. So just kind of a natural shift already, looking forward to the upcoming season and excited for all of that stuff. So Alex is here as well, man. Alex, how are you doing?
Doing good. I have to recondition my brain too, because I remember when we did our draft of the Telesco era, I just completely forgot some of the new guys were on the team, which led to some poor draft picks. But yeah, no, definitely getting back into the swing of things. And I have to remember Gerald Everett is a Charger now.
Yeah. Well, I think you still won that poll, by the way. So
no, I lost the poll. Wait, did I win the poll? I don't. There was a poll I lost that we did. Oh no! You won the wide receiver poll because you put Keenan Allen in your top 10, and then me and Tyler got blown out by like 70 points.
Yeah. No, I think Tyler might have won because he had Herbert. So
yeah, well, I had Tyrod. So all the comments were like, "Well, Alex's team would have won if he just got a top 2 pick," and I'm like, "Yeah, well."
Yeah, if you could have, gotten a real quarterback, it is what it is. Shun family starting the show off hot today. Shout out to Mama Shun, already in the chat with a super sticker. So like I said, we're here for your Q&A. If you have a question that you've been dying to ask us ahead of training camp, please be sure and do that. If you feel inclined to use the super chat feature, we do really appreciate that. So Arjun's in the chat already. What's up, Arjun? Hope you're doing well. Hope your summer has been fun for you. My guy was in Europe traveling and watching some tennis and cricket. So
man, went to Wimbledon. I'm jealous. I'm salty.
Yeah. He's talking about the Derwin James extension. Of course, we got some quote unquote news from Jeremy Fowler that the Chargers are optimistic that the deal will get done. So Tyler, where are you at in terms of what do you think is kind of the expectation for the numbers for Derwin's extension?
$18.9 million a year. I think if we're doing like rounding, it's 4 years 76, 5 years 95. I think and then just a tick below that, I suppose, if you're trying to be more accurate. But we basically know the floor is 18.75. The ceiling is going to be 19. I think somewhere right in the middle.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the big question is whether it's a 4 or 5 year deal.
Sure.
But I think the framework will be a 4. I don't think it really matters anyway, because I think Derwin's going to be guaranteed probably 40. So, I mean, it probably is like a 4 year deal that's really like a 2 or 3 based on like the average annual value and how much will be paid out in those first 2 years. So I would guess 4 years, 75, kind of like Tyler's saying, and then probably we'll say 40 million guaranteed. That puts him right above the Minka Fitzpatrick contract, and that's what I think is going to happen. And I don't think there will be anything that really prevents it from happening. It's just a matter of when now. And training camp starts, is it Tuesday or Wednesday?
Veterans report on Monday, I think.
Oh, on Monday.
Practice starts. The first practice is Wednesday.
So I think it probably gets done that week. I think Joey Bosa got done like the 28th or something like that of July. So we're looking for a timeline. I guess that's kind of the timeline.
Yeah. So Joey got his extension done the day that they reported. He had to report. Mm-hmm. They all had to report that year for the COVID testing. Mm-hmm. And as soon as Joey reported, Joey, took his test and then basically went upstairs and signed his contract. So I assume a deal is done and agreed upon. It just hasn't necessarily been signed right now. The guaranteed money for me is kind of the most interesting aspect of this, because you know, Mike Williams got a big chunk of guaranteed money, and I think so did Sebastian Joseph Day, and you know, so the Chargers threw a lot of guaranteed cash around for, you know, a team that's, you know, quote unquote cash low, according to, you know, several other sources that we've seen. So that was an interesting trend for me, and I think Derwin was going to be the ultimate X factor in that regard, if you will. So if they give Derwin, you know, a $76 million contract and it's $50 million guaranteed or higher, then I think we know that they're willing to just straight up spend a ton of cash in order to build this team around, as opposed to guaranteeing 35, 40, which I feel like 35 would definitely be like a low bar. So kind of like Alex, I think 40 is kind of the minimum there. But I'm just kind of curious if that guaranteed money output is going to continue for Derwin. Obviously, there's the injury factor there too. So that to me is like the most interesting aspect of the contract.
Yeah, I'll have to look at what Brad Spielberger's update for his contract projection was, but I mean, Arjun and Brad are pretty dead on with contracts, and they had him about like 49% guaranteed. So I'd expect something like that. That obviously can change with the APY, with the number of years, but we'll see. I mean, they're obviously committed to him. It's a contract they want to be in. They want to have him for many years, but yeah, I'm thinking half his contract will be guaranteed.
I believe Brad's most recent projection was 4 years, 75 and 40 guaranteed. So,
okay,
40% guaranteed or 40 million guaranteed?
40 million.
Okay, of 75 or 76. Yes. Okay,
so yeah, about half.
Yeah, I guess you know, they did 5 years for JC Jackson, so maybe that kind of lines up too. But yeah, I'm mostly curious about that guaranteed aspect of things. So a couple of good questions in the chat. I know Alex has been dying, however, to you know, talk about the Madden rankings and where everybody kind of stacked up in that regard. So Alex, I'll give you the floor here. Where would you like to start on the Madden list?
Well, so, okay, at first people were mad about the Madden ratings, and it's like, well, they're biased against first and second year players. Like, that happens all the time, and then they'll still have, like, some vet who's clearly past his prime, like, really high on the list. So that I didn't care as much about. I saw the quarterback throw power list, however, and I just don't know, like, what they're doing. So I started the list, and it's like, okay, here's Mahomes, here's Herbert, here's Allen. It's like, okay, that's fine. And then fourth was Zach Wilson, which is like, what?
Yeah.
And then they have, what was it, Baker and like three guys who are still ahead of Rodgers, including Malik Willis, who has not played a snap in the NFL. It's like, you just...
And Sam Howell was 10th, dude.
Sam Howell 10th over Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson, who both have cannons for arms and were literally drafted by the MLB. I'm just like, what are we... I don't know. That list just feels so wrong, and I just wonder whether they actually watch football or not, because if you have a top four that is anything other than Mahomes, Herbert, Allen, and Rodgers in some order, and you can figure out the rest, but Sam Howell in the top 10, Baker Mayfield 2 points below Justin Herbert after a year where he's coming off of a crippled surgery season, and he's ahead of Aaron Rodgers, probably the greatest thrower of the football we've seen. I just don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm just like, how do you like? What are you basing throw power off of? Because like we have literal data of like who throws the football the fastest.
Yeah,
like there's just no way that anybody convinced me that Baker Mayfield throws a football faster than Aaron Rodgers. And we also have a lot of data to check like who can throw it the furthest. And again, there's just no feasible way to say that Baker Mayfield can throw a football longer than Aaron Rodgers. Like, so I don't know. Like, are you just giving your opinions? Is the Madden Raider this is just his opinions or what? Like, are we using data? And so that was definitely strange. I think, of course, the offensive line issues are something that I will always, you know, have an issue with. And, you know, Rashawn Slater being, I think, like tackle 14 or something like that. He wasn't even in the top 10, and his pass blocking rating was like an 82 or something like that. It's like, what are we doing? Like, I get if you want to kind of see them prove it, I guess, before you slap higher ratings on them. But my man was a second team All-Pro, and he was a Pro Bowler as a rookie. Like, I feel like that should give him better than an 82 pass blocking rating.
And did they make his run blocking grade 93 or something?
Yeah,
like
I was like, It's like that is completely backwards of who the player is. Rashawn is a fantastic run blocker, but what he does as a pass blocker is just, it's in a different planet for offensive linemen at this point.
Yeah. I'm not really particular about some of these. Obviously, Morgan Fox being ahead of Jerry Tillery, I thought was funny. I guess that makes sense, I suppose. Josh Palmer. Yeah.
Sawyer ahead of Pipkins is funny.
Ooh, did they have him listed as a guard or a tackle? I don't know, actually. Oh, no, he's a guard. Sure. Okay. I wasn't sure if he okay. Joe Reed only 1 point behind Josh Palmer is interesting.
Hey, Joe Reed is looking jacked, though. Did you see that picture?
He maybe got the strength rating up. I don't know. Sounds like Fajoko's getting his strength rating up as well. He petitioned and they responded. They're going to review it. I don't know how every player is not asking for a review. Rashawn Slater 84. Kyle Van Noy being like the 13th best player on the team over like a Matt Filer is pretty interesting. The
edge rankings were weird too, because it's like they put Chandler Jones like 5 spots ahead of Max Crosby, and he's like 14th on the list. I just didn't understand that at all. And of course, Jamar Chase being the 20th best receiver in the NFL is certainly a take.
Yeah, the edge rankings again, like we have data of who's good and who's not here. Like I'm pretty sure the Madden guys have access to PFF and can look at pass rush run rate and total pressures and things like that. So Crosby being 14th was crazy. I mean, I would love to sit here and say Max Crosby isn't that good.
Yeah,
man.
He was behind Chandler Jones
by quite a lot.
Yeah, which should be totally flipped. I mean, I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, people like when the edge rankings came out, the first thing that people were talking about is, TJ Watt's being disrespected. It's like, hello, Max Crosby is 14th. So that was an interesting choice for sure.
Are you not able to get a higher rating? Like, there's no possible way you can get to a 99 if you're a player who just like literally does not have the athletic ceiling. Like, is Max Crosby just not much of an athlete or something?
I think they just view it in the same way that we sort of talked about like rookies and sophomores, where it's like, well, we've seen one good year from Max Crosby, so we want to see it again, right? Like, I feel like that's how they operate. But it's also like when you've seen players, whether they're rookies or sophomores or in like a Max Crosby situation, be so dominant, like it shouldn't be a question. Like they should just be higher.
Yeah, I don't know. Like if we're talking about pure physical talent, like, and that's part of what the ratings are for certain players. It's like, how you look at Justin Herbert and not give him like a 95?
I have no idea.
I haven't played Madden in years, and these ratings still like get me all worked up. And like I'm not buying the game. I do not have an Xbox or PlayStation or anything in my house. So, but still, it just like bugs me.
I did see Daniel Jones on the quarterback speed list, and it just reminded me of that play where he ran as fast as Lamar Jackson and then fell directly on his face.
Oh, that's why you sent the. That's why you sent the play. I was like,
he was ahead of Jalen Hurts on the speed list, and it just reminded me of that play where he hit like 21 miles per hour and then. So he's really fast.
Yeah, the sniper got him.
I suppose if you put me on a treadmill that was running at Lamar Jackson speed and I had to step on it and go, I would fall on my face too. So Daniel Jones is just one of us.
Yeah,
he is. All right, we'll get into some of these questions. There were a few interesting ones that I wanted to point out. Sweet Jumps asked, who is Carlo Kemp any good? One of you responded, who is Carlo Kemp? So he actually did train with Coach Ed, the defensive line coach that I interviewed, who's trained a bunch of the Chargers players. So I did get some information there. He did play outside linebacker in the USFL. I guess it was more of like a 4-3 front, so it was more defensive end. The Chargers did announce him as an outside linebacker, but Ed seems to think that in this kind of scheme, he would be more of like a Morgan Fox kind of player, as opposed to like an Emeka Egbule practice squad outside linebacker player.
Gotcha.
So, he was listed on the Pittsburgh Mauler site at 286, which is, a little bit bigger than most of the Chargers' other outside linebackers are outside of Joey Bosa. I mean, you're looking at Uchenna and Nwosu was like kind of 250. Khalil Mack is around 250, 260. Kyle Van Noy 240, 250. So 283 is more in line with like a Morgan Fox, Jerry Tillery kind of player, and he's not super lengthy. You know, he's a bit more stout and compact. So I know he was listed as an outside linebacker, but I kind of think he's going to be an inside rusher for them. Again, more of a project as opposed to like a legitimate depth piece that's going to make the roster. He certainly could make an impact, but haven't watched any Carlo Kemp film, but that was the insight I got from his off-season training coach.
Unbelievable. I can't believe you had a good answer to that question. I have no idea who this was. Really good job, Steven.
Thank you. Those connections that the Chargers have been building up with Ed have been paying off. So K Rich asked a question about JC Jackson. And we kind of went over this when the Chargers signed him, of course, but he wants to know, is JC Jackson a true shutdown corner in coverage or basically just a premier ball hawk? Alex, what do you think of the JC Jackson question here?
Both. I mean, I guess the ball hawk thing is interesting because we're going to talk about like the interception totals, and those can vary from year to year. But if you told someone JC Jackson had 2 or 3 fewer interceptions, then I mean his coverage ability itself would still hold up. I don't think it's quite a Trevon Diggs, variance kind of situation there, where it's like he's either getting an interception or he's potentially getting cooked downfield. That's a situation with I think higher variance. But I think JC Jackson, I mean, the NFL showed in those ESPN rankings, they value him as a top 5 corner. I don't know if I would say his coverage skills are like of the, Jalen Ramsey, variety, where that guy's clearly best in the league. And maybe he'll get burnt on a few plays here and there, but he's still going to produce a lot of interceptions and give you a lot of coverage that no Chargers cornerback in the last 10 years could probably give you. So, I mean, I still think he's a top 5 corner in this league.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like Alex said, I don't know if he'll be that Jalen Ramsey peak at his peak, but still he'll be an excellent, I think, shutdown corner. Staley talks about the film when he first walked in the building. Like, yep, I see all these things. I believe in that. You look at those stats that Arjun had posted of him on the graph. In zone coverage, he's like a top 5 corner. In man coverage, he's a top 5 corner in terms of like passer rating or whatever. And then I think it was Timo. I can't remember who posted it, but it was, who shadowed the number 1 wide receiver the most.
Yeah, I think it was Timo,
JC. Yeah, it was JC Jackson. So you have a guy who's one of the best in man coverage, one of the best in zone coverage, who follows the number 1 receiver the most out of anybody else in the league. Like, that's a pretty good sign. Again, Staley says the film looks good. I watched one game against Mike Evans, and it looked good. Obviously, the numbers look good. And I know that the big asterisk is obviously, how will he do outside of the New England system? And I know that some people with the Chargers that were responsible for kind of the risk assessment there feel pretty good about his transition to the Chargers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we had heard from a few people that there were some potential character concerns, which maybe led to a bit of a lesser market for JC. I think a lot of people were just kind of shocked that the Patriots even let it get to this point. I know I was one of them. I figured he would always be kind of, locked in New England just because of how important cornerback is in that system. But I think he's absolutely a premier ball hawk. I think it's not just the interceptions. I think he was second in the league in pass breakups as well. So he gets his hands on a ton of footballs, and that is obviously a fantastic trait for a cornerback. In the ESPN survey, I think it was one of the NFC executives or NFC scouts or something like that said that JC has the best ball skills he's ever seen, which, I mean, like Deion Sanders exists, so maybe he didn't see him play. I don't know, but it's still a very, very big compliment. And I think JC, I wouldn't put him in the same kind of like Ramsey, Jair Alexander, that kind of realm as like a one-on-one matchup corner, but I think he's right in that tier below, and I think the numbers and the film kind of point that to that same kind of ability. So, his presence, if he's able to stay healthy, is going to open up a ton of flexibility for the Chargers, because Brandon Staley has said that he wants JC to shadow number 1 receivers. Tyler just pointed out that he did that a ton last year for the Patriots and kind of proving that he was a true number 1 corner after, of course, Stephon Gilmore left.
Yeah, not worried at all.
So kind of an extension here in terms of the secondary. Boogalump wants to know, will Michael Davis be a starter this season? So I know we have a few differing opinions on this one. So Tyler, I'll let you go first here on your thoughts on Michael Davis's role this year.
I mean, it's tough to say. At some point, I think he might be. I mean, that's just injuries. That's just concussions. That's potentially play. I mean, we saw Staley yank Samuel Jr. and Davis for Tavon Campbell, like just in the middle of a game. So at some point, like, yes, Michael Davis probably will end up being a starter. I do think he should start. And I'm really fascinated to see what happens in training camp, because there was that, Daniel Popper put out the article of the first day of minicamp that Asante Samuel Jr. was the starter. But there was a section later on that Michael Davis deflected a pass, from Justin Herbert covering Donald Parham. So what was like the context of that? Like, was he in the slot covering Donald Parham? Is he going to be the tight end matchup guy that he kind of was to start the season last year over Bryce Callahan maybe at some point? I don't know. I would love to see what the context for that was. I don't think he'll end up being the starter to open the year, but I think he should be.
I don't think he's going to be the starter. Whether he should be really depends on, I guess, what we see from Asante Samuel Jr. We know JC is going to be outside one. Obviously, if Asante takes that leap and then they're looking forward to, cutting Michael Davis next year just because they don't feel like he fits the Staley mold as such, then, I mean, he's going to be left off the team at some point. I still think he's going to play a very important role, even if he's not a starter. Tyler mentioned the deflecting a pass on Donald Parham, and we've seen how Michael Davis can be really essential to defending guys like Travis Kelce and Darren Waller, pretty frequently throughout the year. So I still think Michael Davis, even if he's CB4 by depth chart, I still think he's going to be in the rotation and be an important player to what the Chargers are planning to do, particularly because the Chargers have also built a sort of smaller cornerback room ahead of him. So I think his size, his length, and his speed are also going to be still really important.
Yeah, he'll absolutely have a role. I think the Chargers have a lot of good options here in terms of the secondary if everybody's healthy. And I was listening to Mina Kimes' podcast about the AFC West, and she had Ted Wynn on, who covers the NFL for The Athletic, and he was talking about the secondary and all the kind of options that they have, because not just because of Michael Davis and Bryce Callahan, but also because of JT Woods. And he's a big fan of the versatility that Woods can bring them, and also allows Derwin James to be around the line of scrimmage a lot more often. So there's just so many more options this year. I think for me, like, the ideal nickel package does involve Michael Davis and bumping Asante Samuel into the slot. If everybody's healthy, of course. So it really depends. Like Alex is saying, like, what do we see from Asante Samuel Jr.? Is he like the bona fide CB2? I think he should be. And then Michael Davis is your third corner after that. Kind of depends on matchups, I guess. So I think Michael Davis ends up playing like a starter amount of snaps this year, but I don't think he's technically a starter just based off of like what the base package will be, because I think that's Asante Samuel Jr.
Yeah, I agree.
We had a super chat.
Sorry.
SoCal Slime, shout out for the super chat. He says, who's Steven's preferred matchup for Bosa in the first 2 weeks, Leatherwood or Wiley? So Leatherwood has been making some strides himself. So I think Leatherwood ends up being a better player. So I think it'll be Wiley, but I'm just curious in general to see how they rotate Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa in terms of like side and side, because both of them really were like left defensive end, left outside linebackers for both of their respective teams. So how they switch that up is going to be very interesting. But the question here is Wiley. I just think his floor is, or his ceiling is significantly lower. His floor is lower, because Alex Leatherwood, if he's good and locked in, then he obviously has a much higher ceiling. But Joey's going to cook either one of these two players, because I don't think they're going to be like a top tier matchup for them.
Is Leatherwood playing tackle?
He is. He's according to Raiders people because Raiders started training camp last week. He is getting snaps at guard with the second team, but he is the starting right tackle right now. Again, it's only the first week of training camp, but
yeah. Someone's hitting their mic. It's getting pretty incredible feedback. All right.
There we go.
Interesting. Leatherwood taking first team reps at tackle and then second team reps at guard.
Yeah.
I really wonder what Duke thinks of that.
I know that he hates that they put him at guard last year. So
after playing Joey Bosa.
Yeah. I know. It's like so many coaches are super inconsistent with like what they expect from rookie offensive linemen. And it's like you drafted this guy clearly to play tackle. And so he has like a rough start to his rookie season. And you're like, let's just bump him into guard. And in the middle of the season. So, you know, that's just not an ideal situation for any rookie offensive lineman or player in general, right? Like, I mean, he wasn't a rookie, but we saw Kenneth Murray struggle with a linebacker to edge kind of transition. And it's just not fair to the young players to ask them to learn one position and then midseason be like, hey, learn this new position on the fly.
Yeah, it's no surprise that Slater was the better tackle last year. He just played left tackle. You're at a left tackle, you're playing left tackle. Sewell had to move back and forth.
Yeah.
Eichenberg had to move to guard or whatever he ended up being in tackle. Leatherwood had to move. It's just not ideal. Like, it clearly doesn't work. Well, it can, but like, don't do it in the middle.
I can't find the question. But speaking of Kenneth Murray, I saw Anthony Hopper asking about Murray potentially being placed on the PUP list or the IR or something like that. From what I've seen, teams are kind of waiting until everybody's in the building to place a player on the PUP list. So I would expect we find out a little bit more about Murray's situation on Monday when all of the players actually report to camp.
Didn't the Saints already place Michael Thomas on the PUP list? I think, yeah. Well, I saw something like that. So I think teams have already started the process, but the Chargers probably wait till they're formally in the building.
These questions always crack me up. Jace wants to know, hypothetically, in a situation due to injury in training camp, which of these veteran guys would you be most comfortable with coming back to the team? Chris Herod, Jared Cook, or Linval Joseph?
Oh, Linval.
I think it would, like, from an on-field perspective, it's definitely Linval, but he's also coming off of a shoulder surgery or a tricep surgery of some kind. We don't really know how healthy he is. Chris Harris reportedly has 5 teams interested in him. I don't know how much I buy that.
CFL or
yeah. The answer is definitely not Jared Cook, though. I'm good with the tight ends where they are at.
I'm good. Linval's fine. If they wanted to bring him back, whatever. Harris and Cook are just objectively terrible.
Yeah, it would probably be Joseph, then Cook, then Harris for me. Joseph being a clear front runner. Yeah, I mean, watching all the games now on offense with Jared Cook, well, obviously there are significant issues, don't get me wrong. But, like, I feel like they have players who can just do what Chris Harris Jr. can do, or at least they should develop him. Linval Joseph, I think they have some guys they can work with there. Donald Parham, like, I don't know how much they actually believe in him. You know, it's like 193 yards is his season high. If they absolutely had to, and they absolutely had to, Jared Cook, if Gerald Everett gets hurt, obviously, would at least be able to slide in and kind of maintain some production, I suppose.
Sure, that's true.
That's true. Please don't get hurt, Gerald Everett.
Shout out to Everett O'Neill, just joined our YouTube membership program. So good opportunity to plug that, of course, as we get close to training camp. Tyler's going to be there for most of the practices and likely sharing a lot of information in our Discord app. So make sure you are signed up for that if you haven't already. It's a great opportunity to just get some inside information from somebody that has boots on the ground over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I'll be there all of, except for 3 days, I think, during training camp. So I'll have as much information as I can give you. So yeah, follow me here on Twitter, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas Martinez wants to know about joint practices versus the Cowboys. Are all eyes on the tackles versus Parsons? Any other spicy matchups? Diggs versus Allen. I mean, if I were there, I would be watching the tackles versus Micah Parsons, specifically Rashawn Slater. You know, they had some really fun reps in the game last season, but I think naturally, like most people are going to be watching the receivers versus the corners on both sides. Like I think there's a good amount of CeeDee Lamb buzz this year too. So CD versus JC Jackson, Keenan versus Trayvon Diggs, like that's where most people are going to be watching. But I mean, I'm a trench guy, so that's my answer.
Yeah, I do want to see Keenan Allen because he had, I think, one really great play to start that game, but then there were like the 2 slips and he was undercut for an interception by Diggs during that Dallas game. Just kind of some weird things that don't usually happen with Keenan Allen. So I'd love to see him get, some revenge there as much as he can.
Yeah, I think wide receiver cornerback matchups are generally easier to watch during training camp too, because like, I guess obviously edge players and offensive tackles like go to the rep, but like there's sort of a point where they stop versus I feel like the wide receivers and cornerbacks just kind of like keep going through the play. Yeah, I mean, Keenan versus anyone would really be interesting. Maybe we can get like another Rams fight with the wide receivers and the cornerbacks and we just start chaos. But yeah, I think that any real matchup versus the Cowboys would be pretty interesting.
You gotta love training camp fights. There wasn't really anything physical with the Niners last year. I know that there was like a lot of verbal yelling between the two sides, but we'll see if that streak breaks this year with the Cowboys. Jarrett, the Chargers and Rams are not having a joint practice. The only team that the Chargers are joint practicing with is the Cowboys.
And I would check your email for the season ticket thing.
That's what I figured. If you guys see a question, of course, you can put it up.
Look, I know we're going to talk about this tomorrow. Like, I don't know. Letty Brown, man, he's not electric. I don't know what people keep. People love him so much. I get it. There's so many great things about him, but electric just does not feel like something that really speaks to me when I watch him. I know the highlights are really cool, but Miguel, I'm not really feeling it with Letty Brown. And if you're frustrated with Joshua Kelly's fumbling problems, look at Letty Brown's 5 last year.
Yeah, I feel like Marks is the more electric one between the two if I had to pick one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I watched film on both of these players. Letty Brown just felt like the same kind of player as Larry Roundtree, where it's like, if there's a clear defined hole, like he can see it and he can get through there. And if he gets out in open space, he can be a physical kind of player and potentially break some tackles. But, Tyler mentioned the fumbling issues. I'm not super into that kind of back. I just think he's really redundant. I do think that they would choose Roundtree over Letty Brown because Roundtree's been in the system. Roundtree has more special teams value. So for me, if there's the undrafted running back that can make the roster is Marks because of his diversity as a pass catcher, as a runner. And also he was a fantastic blocker at Memphis. So I think there's more special teams value there. So, if you're talking about keeping 4 running backs and the last spot is Roundtree versus Marks, I think Marks has a better chance than Brown would just because of his special teams, his potential special teams value.
I also just think the highlights matter a little bit less. I mean, when we talk about these guys who are making the preseason than what you do in camp and even like preseason games, there was the one big Larry Roundtree run versus the Rams last year. And that's when the Roundtree hype really got to its peak, where he was blocked for an open hole. But I think it's less about those plays too, and more so when you're talking about Brown or Marks or some of these get Kelly fighting for a roster spot as well. When you're talking about these guys that are going to be in that position, I think it's more about what they do on special teams from rep to rep than it is about what they're doing on offense during a game. Obviously, if you fumble during a preseason game or you commit some kind of error on offense, it's going to come back to bite you, particularly blocking and stuff. But I think the Chargers are going to make that decision much more on a special teams basis, similar to how Eckler was picked out of that crop of undrafted free agents a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's a great point. Tylen asking about any similarities between Justin Jackson and Isaiah Spiller. Says, to me, even though they both lack speed, they have great vision and can break tackles.
Yeah, I don't know what their physical profiles look like, but they do look very similar. They do have that elusive trait. For some reason, Justin Jackson was like 5th in the league in yards after contact per attempt last year. I don't really expect that to have held over many years. I don't know if it did or not. But otherwise, the elusiveness, the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, just that kind of one cut, the wiggle. I think there's a lot of similarities there. I think when you were watching, it was pretty obvious that he was kind of just Justin Jackson, but healthy.
Yeah, I think Justin Jackson has better vision personally, but they both can break tackles and both play with that physicality.
Yeah, I think one similarity that I would point out is that both of them are not necessarily like elite receiving options, but both of them can do a lot of good things as a pass catcher. Like I think that was kind of an underrated aspect of Isaiah Spiller's game, was his ability to, get out of the backfield, run some Texas routes, run some option routes, and be effective in that regard, more so than just like, hey, run this screen and catch the ball with a lot of blockers in front of you. So Justin Jackson was a very good receiving back. I think Isaiah Spiller also a very similarly underrated receiving back.
I guess I would say Spiller's kind of better through the contact. I generally trust Justin Jackson's athleticism and vision more, though. Of course, the big difference being that Spiller seems to still be young and able to stay healthy.
Yeah, I would say the biggest advantage that Jackson has over Spiller would be contact balance for me, and just the way that Jackson is able to just kind of plant his feet in the ground and stay, on his feet essentially when he's going through contact, I think would be the biggest edge there. Always love pop culture questions.
Yes, I was so ready for this. Okay.
Chorizo con Papa is looking for movie suggestions for today to beat the heat. Lord of the Rings, Godfather, Harry Potter. I'm feeling the same way. It's not supposed to be as hot today as it was last Saturday, but it's still going to be like 103 today. So I'll take the 5-degree downgrade a little bit. But Tyler, suggestions for Chorizo con Papas today as he's trying to stay inside and watch the movies.
I mean, if you have to break this tier like into this trio, Lord of the Rings trilogy by a mile, and then watch it again, the extended versions. The Godfather trilogy would almost have it, but you think that third one, I've only seen that once and I wasn't super fond of it. And then Harry Potter after that. I think the Harry Potter movies are fine.
Not a big Harry Potter guy, huh?
No, I'm not a big texture guy. I'm a big Lord of the Rings guy.
Not a big fan of the Harry Potter textures.
Big elf guy over here. The Harry Potter movies are fine. Like they're obviously a big part of, I think, most of our childhoods, or at least the cultural zeitgeist at the time. If you have like a, girlfriend, fiance who is really into it, watch the Twilight movies. It's really funny to go back and watch those. They suck. Don't get me wrong.
They're so bad.
But you can have some fun with that. So yeah, maybe the Twilight movies. John Wick 4 trailer just dropped. Keanu Reeves versus Donnie Yen. Like, it sounds amazing. Watch the John Wick trilogy. It's just some fun. I don't know. Whatever.
Dark Knight trilogy. Yeah.
I mean, like, if you're talking about these three things, like, the answer is obviously Lord of the Rings. But I think there's a lot of good opportunities or things that you can check out. I mean, depending on what streaming services you have, of course. But I was laughing the other day because Brooke and I recently started watching What We Do in the Shadows, that Taika Waititi
is it good
FX show. It's so funny. It's so funny.
God.
It takes a little bit to get going, and it is kind of like dry humor. So if you're not super into dry humor, it's probably not your show. But in the second season, because the first season's only like 10 episodes, so you can get through it pretty quick. But in the second season, they do like a spoof on the baseball scene from Twilight.
Yeah,
where what's his name like hits the ball like into the forest and like chases after it, and they do a little spoof on that in the FX series with Taika Waititi, and Brooke and I were dying at it.
Oh my gosh, I have to look that up now.
So that's on Hulu. If anybody wants to go watch it, if you're into Taika Waititi, I think he's a fantastic director, but just a really funny like vampire spoof kind of show.
I actually really hated Godfather 3 the first time I watched it, but then they released like a director's cut version of it. Was it last year, 2 years ago? So I think it was last year. It actually wasn't as bad as I remembered. I guess if you're just saying like quantifiable trilogies, like what their IMDb composite scores would be, then probably Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Godfather 1 and 2, I would probably take that over Lord of the Rings still, but it kind of depends on what stuff you're into.
I know I'm going to be watching, what's that movie called? The Russo brothers are doing it with Chris Evans and Ryan Gosling. Gray Man, yeah. I wanted to watch that this weekend. But
I saw Nope yesterday. Not a big fan.
It was okay. Did you like the first half more? Like, when did it lose you, or was it immediately?
It kind of, so I don't want to give spoilers. The stuff they do with the monkey wasn't that good to me. And that's sort of where they lost me, because I felt that the movie got bloated because of that. Everything with Keke Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya, love that stuff. It gave me, you said signs on Twitter, but like how bloated it was, and like the ending just feeling not that great. Like it didn't feel like a great resolution. It kind of reminded me of like The Happening a little bit.
That's worse.
Okay, that's much worse.
not as bad as that movie. Like clearly Jordan Peele is like not M. Night Shyamalan with how bad that movie was with the acting and stuff. But like it's the most cinematic like Peele movie. But I just felt like I feel like he got ahead of himself like writing it, because like it probably could have been two separate movies with the monkey and Steven Yeun's character and the other stuff. And I just thought the other stuff was better. I don't know.
Yeah, I was the stuff that they shot, like where they were going with Steven Yeun and Gordy or whatever. I was like, okay, interesting. Like this is maybe even intense. Like, what's this going to be? And then it just goes away, and it's like, oh, okay. I guess we're not talking about that anymore. Again, try not to spoil anything. I don't think it was like Signs. It just Jason was asking about like scare
totally.
level.
Yeah,
like how scary is it? I think it's like kind of like a Signs. I think most people would like it fine. It's up to you. Once you get kind of the idea of what's going on, you might completely hate it. Like I'll be honest, like you might hate the reveal, I guess.
Brooke and I might go see that tonight. She loves Jordan Peele. So we'll see. Chorizo with a follow-up question. If all of these guys are commissioned to kill each other, who survives? John Wick, Jason Bourne, James Bond. What I'll say is James Bond is getting out of this competition like immediately. Even if you're talking about Daniel Craig's James Bond, like I just don't think he can hold up against what John Wick and Jason Bourne can do. So I think John Wick's character is just so much more of a gun specialist, and Jason Bourne is much better in hand-to-hand combat. That James Bond is the clear weak link here, and he's out immediately, pretty much for me.
Yeah, I agree. I even think like the shift to Daniel Craig and like Casino Royale was because of Jason Bourne, how much more intense and kind of cool that was. I'll say John Wick. I'm a big Keanu fan, and also I almost think he's kind of invincible at this point. Like he has yet to die from everything that he's gone through in like 4 days. So I think John Wick.
Yeah, I mean both of them have quite a bit of like plot armor.
Sure.
I'll go John Wick. I mean, just in terms of like, I feel like that's how the first John Wick movie in particular is just like structured, with like the legend of like how he is, and that gets around. I like the Bourne movies a little bit more though, and then it kind of like
I could see that.
It fell off when they did like Legacy, and they like tried to replace Matt Damon with Jeremy Renner, and then they had to bring Matt Damon back. But yeah, I think John Wick probably wins that fight.
Yeah, I think just from like a sheer will standpoint, like John Wick is going to outlast whoever is in this competition. But, you know, if Jason Bourne has a chance for me, it would be like hand-to-hand combat, you know, and just like duke it out with John Wick that way. But like I said, Wick just has those survival skills on tap. K Rich pointing out you could have put in the Equalizer. Sure, I guess. Not the TV version, obviously. But with Denzel Washington.
Could John Wick beat the 2001 Lakers?
Shaq in this kind of competition.
Shaq would put 80 points on John Wick before he gets shot.
Well, John Wick did beat that basketball player. Who was it in the third movie?
Boban.
Boban? Yeah. So, you know, there's some precedent here.
I forgot that Boban was in that movie. I forgot.
Was it chapter 3 or chapter 2? I don't remember.
3.
I think it was the third one.
Kills him with the book or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch Hustle on Netflix with Adam Sandler?
No.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, Boban's in that, and it's like a recreation
Okay.
of Benchwarmers, where that guy is like 27 and he's trying to play in like Little League.
Oh,
So Boban is huge and old, right?
yeah.
And Adam Sandler's like, "Are you sure you're 18? Because if you're older than 22, you can't be in the draft." And he's like, "I'm 20."
Yeah, I also liked Bo Cruz going against Tobias Harris and all that. That was good. Anthony Edwards is awesome in that movie. I feel like he should be in like every movie that they make, like regarding basketball, outside of basketball. He's awesome.
He is. So there's another movie suggestion if you want to check out a sports movie with Hustle. I saw some football questions again in here.
They're rare.
Oh yeah, that.
Yeah, Tim F. What do you think the chances of going with both Leonard and Taylor over Campbell and Hall? So we are going to do a position battle episode tomorrow. So I don't want to like spoil a ton of this, but I do think that it is important to kind of separate these two battles like Tim has outlined here, because a lot of people are like, oh, like they could choose Taylor versus Campbell. And I think for me, you're talking about a slot position battle with Taylor and Hall, and then an outside corner position between Leonard and Campbell. So I think it is important to distinguish those two, as opposed to just saying like they could keep Taylor and Hall, for example, or they could keep Campbell and Leonard. So I think it's going to be two separate position battles, two separate winners there.
Yeah, I think Taylor has the easiest shot just by nature of draft position and honestly skill. But what are the chances? It really feels like a coin flip. I'll be completely honest. Like, it does feel like a 50-50 shot. I'll let you know after a few days in training camp.
Honestly, like whichever ones do better on special teams, like that feels kind of like the answer. I know they mentioned in that Popper Athletic article from minicamp that Hall's working with Guyton as the gunner, kind of in that role. So if he proves his value on special teams and kind of wins like the gunner job, then he might just be kept on the roster for that purpose. Other than that, I think Jasir Taylor's probably the lock, and then they pick one of Campbell, Hall, or Leonard.
Yeah, like I think Taylor's pretty much a lock for kind of like that last spot, because I say last even though he's like probably more likely to play than like Dean Leonard would be, but just from like a positional standpoint, like there's so many options in front of him for covering the slot that I don't know how much Taylor's going to be playing, but I think he will make the roster. I mean, Leonard has a chance, man. I think it's an interesting case study that will play out because Campbell's obviously the veteran. They know what he can do. There's no like developing Tavon Campbell. Like he is what he is at this point. But we were talking in our Discord earlier this week, and Dean Leonard has basically like zero experience playing man-to-man defense. Like it's always been zone coverage, and specifically like way off zone coverage at Ole Miss and in Canada. So Leonard's got some intriguing physical skills for sure. He's never played man-to-man coverage essentially. So if they view him kind of as like a ball of clay that they can mold throughout the season and play in a pinch, then that's maybe they'll choose Leonard. A lot of Chief offensive line questions over the last couple of weeks, obviously with Orlando Brown and his situation. I laughed really hard at Andy Reid yesterday, like immediately starting his press conference and said, well, we have full confidence in Joe Thuney playing left tackle if Orlando doesn't show up, and we feel like we're set there. Thuney did play a couple games last year at left tackle. They were pretty good. Like they weren't elite by any means, but they're in a good spot regardless, because I think, you have an elite center. If Thuney and Trey Smith are your left guard, right guard, for me, that's like the best interior trio in the league by quite a lot. But if Thuney's kicking out to left tackle, I still think you're talking about a good offensive line, but you're not talking about an elite offensive line, because you're getting worse essentially at two positions by kicking Thuney out to left tackle, bringing in a backup left guard.
I hope by week 2 it's Joe Thuney at tackle and Chris Jones at edge, and just all these good interior players are moved outside.
Yeah. I guess I still think it's a decent offensive line, specifically just because you have Creed Humphrey. And you guys have guys that I think can stabilize it if you have to move Joe Thuney and they really can't reach a deal by week 1. It would be worse, but I guess this is also like a how good do you think Orlando Brown is question, right? Because if you think he's a top 10 tackle, then obviously that's like pretty dramatic drop off. But if you think he's more, I think like we do in the top 15, 20 range, then you can probably get away with having Thuney. If they didn't sign Thuney last year, I think they would be in much bigger trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just like the Chiefs have so many question marks for me, and offensive line is like at the lowest in the list. Like to me, offensive line and linebacker, which were real weaknesses of theirs a couple seasons ago, are like the strengths of the team outside of Patrick Mahomes, of course. So I mean, for their sake, like obviously, I hope that they'll be able to get back Orlando Brown, but from our sake, like obviously don't please hold out some if you want to. But to me, the biggest X factor for the Chiefs is the defense again, because I think they clearly wanted to get younger and more athletic, but Melvin Ingram was a huge piece for them down the stretch. And George Karlaftis, I think I like him as a prospect, but he's not going to be better than Melvin Ingram out of the gate, and Trent McDuffie's not going to be better than Charvarius Ward out of the gate. And you're talking about them opening the season with the Cardinals offense, the Chargers offense, the Colts offense, the Buccaneers offense, the Raiders offense, and the Bills offense in the first 6 weeks. So
flying in Reed for Matthew too.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're just in a bit of a transition phase, but they were in kind of a transition phase last year too, I guess, from a win-loss standpoint. So the difference obviously is you got to be able to take advantage of the first 6 games this year.
Yeah, I feel like we're just going to see the same stuff we saw last year for the first 4 games. We're like, I don't know. Or the Chiefs finally on the decline, and then we see Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and it's like, oh, okay, never mind. So I feel like that's kind of going to play out this year again, probably.
Tyler, any thoughts there on the Chiefs? Final thoughts there, I guess?
I want a full, healthy, ready-to-go Chiefs team. I don't want to beat them in week 2, or I don't want the Chargers to beat them in week 2. And it's like, well, we didn't have this and that. No, like let's just go in, beat the Raiders, beat the Chiefs. Like I want a definitive start to this year. Like, no, this is our AFC West this year.
Absolutely, I agree there. I'm always a fan. Like people are always like, oh, I hope he's rooting for certain suspensions to happen or rooting for people to be injured. It's like, no, like I want healthy versus healthy. Like I want a better football game, better competition, and the Chargers obviously to come out on top. Thomas Martinez, is it an advantage that Isaiah Spiller is only 20 for the rookie dinner shenanigans since he can't buy alcohol yet? This is always so funny to me. I don't know if you guys saw from I think it was the Pivot podcast where Garrett Wilson was on there and he was talking about like rookie dinners and how it was just going to be like the worst experience possible. And I think this is low-key an advantage for Isaiah Spiller because, they can't put that tab on his check, I guess. I don't know. But I wonder if the Chargers do this. We haven't heard many like horror stories about rookie dinners recently from the Chargers. So I wonder if this is still a thing for them or not.
Well, I know they put up pictures of like rookies carrying pads before quite a bit. I don't know about the rookie dinners. I will say I relate to Isaiah Spiller's struggles with terminal baby faces. I forgot my ID at a restaurant last night and I could not order alcohol. So I
understand.
Oh no. Yep. Yeah, happens to the best of us or the worst of us. So understand where Isaiah Spiller's struggles come from.
That's a bummer, Alex.
Yep, it's bad.
No one bought some alcohol for you?
Well, no. Well, also, okay, it's like a small Italian restaurant, and then like if someone would have bought alcohol for me, someone would have had it like slid over to me, and the waitress would have walked by and been like, "Oh, what the fuck is going on over here?" So
it's really
wasn't really a way that I could have gotten away with it.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I was always the designated driver, obviously in college, and so I would like buy alcohol for my friends who were underage and just like say, "Hey, this is mine," and then just give it to them. So
yeah, It's also different in Antigua because you can be 18 and order alcohol versus here you have to be 21. So when I slide over my ID and it's like born in 1999, the waitress takes a look at it and like wonders if it's fake because no one believes that I'm 23. So.
You're born in 99?
Yep.
That made me feel so old, man.
I'm not even that far off. It's just like,
yeah.
Whoo. Like you
99.
are Phantom Menace age.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've had the same experience, Tyler. I imagine yes, but little kids or middle school kids or high school kids always just like assume that you're super old. And like, I don't.
Not really.
Maybe it's just like because I have a beard and like I've
Yeah.
always looked older than I actually am. But I had a high school kid yesterday tell me that I looked like I was 40, and I was like, bro, I was like,
kid?
A high school kid, yeah.
Because I have like some like dumb little 5-year-olds be like, "You're 50 million," and it's like, okay, well, not quite. But a high school kid,
yeah,
I would not have guessed 40s. I would have guessed like maybe 30 or something. I don't know.
Which I'm 28. Like, 30 is close enough, but.
You just looking weathered and sweaty at school.
I know.
You show up like, ugh.
Was Isaiah Spiller born in 2001 or 2002? If he's 20. I would guess 2001, right? I guess he's turning 21.
This is important. Let me see.
Let's fact check this.
So he was born August 9th, 2001. So he turns 21.
Yeah, so he's turning 21.
In training camp.
Okay.
So looks like he won't actually ditch. He won't really ditch the rookie hazing. I imagine he'll get that 21-year-old alcohol bill pretty quickly after that.
Oh man.
August. I think Matisse might have been like 20, like his first Sixers season or something, and they just made him buy like a ton of Chick-fil-A for the whole team, so that took place of alcohol. But
yeah. Yeah, NBA players are different because like Devin Booker was 18 for like basically his whole rookie season.
Yeah, I just remember Bill Simmons saying Jason Tatum was only 19 for like 8 years. And was like 24.
Teresa Compapa, what offense scares you more, Chiefs or Raiders?
Chiefs.
The one that has Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. Like the Raiders scare me, and obviously you add Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow takes another step, but to me that's just a Derek Carr versus Patrick Mahomes question at the end of the day, and I'm much more scared about what Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid can still do than Derek Carr and John McDaniels.
Yeah, I think for me this is like, I trust J.C. Jackson to at least hold his own against Devontae, and I trust Derwin, Michael Davis, that combination to win some matchups individually against Darren Waller. And obviously I trust the defense as a whole against Derek Carr, whereas Patrick Mahomes can just like pop off at any moment and score 3 touchdowns in 3 drives. And we've seen that time and time again. So I think for me it's just it's the quarterback thing more than anything else.
I guess the way I would answer this question is like, if the Chargers have a 20-point lead over either of these teams, who scares you more in terms of who could come back? And that's still the Chiefs with how they're constructed.
Yeah. All right, trying to find a couple more questions. We'll take a few more, and then we'll head out for the morning.
Get your food questions in. We have 5 or 10 minutes left. This happens every episode.
Yeah, one food question for 20 minutes. Come on, guys.
We'll find some realization over here.
We did cover a lot of like pop culture stuff today. We talked about the NBA a little bit.
Well, it's July. It's still training camp's next week, so we're not leave back in.
Teresa, so when people stop carding you for alcohol, it's a sad day. So I guess enjoy that moment for a while, Alex.
No. Probably gonna get carded until I'm 40, so
that's not bad. Do Jewish people have the Asian thing where they look the same age for about 80 years and then all of a sudden they turn 80?
Yeah. I'd say yeah. Also depends on how much hair they have, because I feel like that's a big factor. But
Alex, somebody was asking, like, I don't know how this came up, but what are the most common like Jewish last names? Like, I know Schwartz is like a big one, but
Uh,
I'll Google this.
Goldman.
Goldman?
Anything ending in Berg.
Okay.
There's a lot of them. Really, just look at IMDb and you'll find everything you need to find on that topic.
The most common surnames: Cohen.
Cohen's a big one. Yeah.
Huh.
I think the more interesting thing is the first names, because I know, like, growing up, I knew like a ton of Jewish boys that were named Ari. Like, that's like a huge Jewish boy name. Rachel, big Jewish girl name.
There you go.
Interesting. Every Rachel I see now will just be like, right.
Yeah.
Are you Jewish?
There's at least a 70% chance.
Yeah. Interesting.
Thomas also pointed out Stein.
Levine, Stein. Yeah.
All right, we got a food question from Thomas, so we're talking about it. Does fruit belong on pizza? What about tacos?
Sorry, I just started with the pizza. It doesn't belong on pizza at all.
Yeah, not on pizza. I guess it depends, like, what you're doing for tacos. Like, if you're doing some sort of like Baja fish taco with like some like pineapple salsa, maybe, but like otherwise, no. Like, not really.
I think this is specifically like a pineapple question or like a mango question because,
Yeah,
like,
mango.
obviously you're not going to put like a strawberry on either of these, right? You know, or like
in Utah they do, I'm sure.
Funeral potatoes in your tacos.
They'll put a chocolate covered strawberry on a pizza and call it a dessert pizza or some
Jesus.
shit. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
what
pineapple.
What technically counts as a fruit though? Like, because
you know what the state vegetable of Oklahoma is?
No.
It's a watermelon.
Wait,
like,
vegetable?
Yes.
Like, is avocado a fruit?
I want to say yes, technically.
Because I was just thinking, like, if you're making, like, I don't know, guacamole or something, like, does guacamole by proxy count as a vegetable? I don't know.
I mean, if avocado is a fruit, then the answer to this question is yes. Because
that I think, yeah.
Is avocado a fruit?
Only on tacos though. I would think avocado is a fruit.
Oh, dude,
considered a fruit. So yes.
There we go.
Right.
Then the answer to this question is yes, dude.
Yeah.
Chicken,
Fruit
bacon, avocado
belongs on
pizza,
tacos.
fantastic.
All right.
Oh, avocado's so good.
Next, let's solve world hunger.
But the answer, if you're talking about pineapples, the answer is also yes. I had a pineapple pizza on Wednesday. It was fantastic.
Oh Jesus! What the fuck?
Hate you.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah,
it was great, dude. They put Fresno chilies in the marinara sauce, and then they had oven roasted prosciutto and then pineapple. It was a great pizza.
You put pineapples near oven roasted prosciutto?
Not in the prosciutto.
No, I just in the same 5 mile radius. Like,
absolutely.
Ew.
It was a great balance of spicy, sweet, and salty. It was fantastic.
Absolutely not.
I'm seeing a recipe for avocado brownies, by the way.
Avocado brownies?
I don't know.
Not the accoutrement that I would put in brownies.
In terms of tacos, there is, obviously tacos al pastor with pineapple is a fantastic combination. Mango salsa, great.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're talking about avocado. Teresa, not a fan of mangoes and tacos.
Obviously, if you're like making it work, not just like here's a mango slice, like an avocado slice.
I'm a fan of tacos. Mangoes, we could live without.
Cut. If you guys could switch lives with any Chargers player, who would you choose?
Ooh, it's a good question.
I mean, okay,
who's the
aside from the fact that I'd have to break up with my fiance, so I'm imagining I didn't have to worry about that. I mean, Keenan's got it pretty good.
I mean, Keenan's lived in Southern California like his whole life, and he's earned a big chunk of change throughout his life.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, obviously, like Justin would have the most fun because he's still single. Like he basically gets to do whatever.
I don't know if I'd want to be Justin though. I don't know, man.
I mean, I guess if you're inheriting his personality too.
Yeah.
But I mean, Justin's got a good sense of humor.
He does lift. That's good. You know.
Actually, I think for me the answer would be Sebastian Joseph Day, because he gets to do a podcast with Mike Tyson, and I mean, he has a YouTube channel dedicated to eating food, so that would be pretty fun. And he's just such an electric personality, man. Like, I think that would be fun.
I completely forgot. The right answer is Chase Daniel. That's the job that I want.
Oh yeah, get paid to do nothing.
Yeah, Charlie Whitehurst, Kellen Clemens, Chase Daniel, you name
There
it.
you
Like
yeah,
any of those.
I think Chase Daniel is the answer.
That's
I'm
perfect.
just catching up on some of the comments, and somebody pointed out cauliflower on tacos. Gross.
I've seen cauliflower on pizza, and that also looks inedible.
I've had cauliflower like crust before, but
Yeah, no, but I mean like cauliflower as a topping, like on the cheese.
it's just so strange. It doesn't even look good. Like, why would it just? There's a
big texture guy. No, not on the cauliflower texture.
Fair enough.
No, not at all. Thomas Martinez pointing out Fajoko. I think, like, obviously he's a great guy, but there's always just kind of that: is he on the team? Is he not on the team? You know what I mean? Like that kind of back end of the roster grind is just like would not be my choice. Like, I want an established future.
Okay, now you just saying a bunch of weird things, guys. Cauliflower with mac and cheese, pizza with mayonnaise.
Pizza with mayonnaise? What?
That goes in coffee.
That's that
Oh God, I saw that video and I was like, "What is
Will
happening?"
Levis, man, undrafted right now.
Deported. He should be out of the country. I'm sorry,
Steven. Who's the quarterback you gave like the lowest grade of all time?
It was what's his name from Michigan?
I can't think of his name.
He was in the USFL this year on the same team as Paxton Lynch.
Are we talking about Shea Patterson?
Yeah, Shea Patterson.
Yeah, so below that.
That's the one. Yeah, that's below that. Talk about a weird texture, man. Mayo and coffee.
I can like slightly understand people that put like a modicum of like butter in their coffee or something. I've heard that before, but mayo, just no. And he squirted like half the bottle.
Yeah, he did.
That's the thing.
That's disgusting.
You're not even drinking coffee anymore. You're just drinking mayonnaise. SoCal Slime said Justin has a girlfriend. I know there's been a bunch of rumors. Like,
yeah,
during the COVID, a lot of people thought he was dating some chick from the Bachelor franchise. Last year, a lot of people thought he was dating the NFL Network lady.
Shoddy.
Yeah. But I mean, not that Justin would ever like post about it, but I feel like we would like consensus know if Justin had a girlfriend or not. I don't know. Send us your sources, SoCal Slime.
Honestly, I feel like we wouldn't. I feel like Justin just wants to go his whole career with us not knowing anything about him, which I respect.
Sure, but I mean, he's like in LA. Like, if Justin Herbert had a girlfriend, I feel like it would be pretty common knowledge.
Probably. But I also feel like Justin is being in LA. I think he wants to be as low key as possible. Like, I think he almost views the paparazzi as like a challenge. See how much you can.
Yeah, Thomas said paparazzi would have caught him by now.
Yeah.
Like, he's so big too. Like, you're not talking about an average human being just being able to sneak around a girl.
Yeah.
Like, there's no doubt that guy is Justin Herbert as soon as you see him.
Yeah, I think that's probably why he goes back to Eugene all the time. So he could just like avoid it. No one's gonna follow him to Eugene, Oregon. So.
Maybe there's like a former Oregon soccer player that he's like dating or something. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Do we want to address the birthday cake and ice cream question or just head out?
Birthday cake mostly sucks. I always get cheesecake because it's way better. Ice cream, it kind of depends. There's the half-baked ice cream from Ben & Jerry's, which has like both like fudge brownie and chocolate chip cookie dough in it. It's freaking amazing. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm against Ben & Jerry's because you're just not getting enough value and it's too expensive for that pint. I'm sorry to be Jewish here, but like you're just
I've never weighed the value of a pint of ice cream.
I'm like, give me that ice cream. I don't care how much I'm spending. If it's good, it's
buy
good.
the store brand ice cream, you can get a whole gallon of ice cream for the same cost of a pint of Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah, but you're getting a tub of vanilla ice cream.
Vanilla value wise, would you rather have like spend like $85 because it has Jimmy Fallon's face on it? Like, I don't know. That's basically what Ben and Jerry's is.
But I mean, you're buying Ben and Jerry's. You're buying Ben and Jerry's because they have like other flavors just besides like classic chocolate or vanilla.
Yeah,
like nobody's getting vanilla Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Like you're getting like the Tonight Dough or whatever flavor that just has like a bunch of everything in it.
But the value is still not enough because then you run out of ice
cream. You actually go to the store and you buy the giant lunch pail of vanilla ice cream. Like
I would actually. Yeah, I do that a lot. Or I buy like the big, big tubs of it from like the store brand or something from like Publix. Or they have like a ShopRite or whatever the store is in California. The local store brand, you just get more value than like this like tiny little pint of ice cream that runs out in one sitting.
Do you finish the entire thing of vanilla ice cream? Right. Also, yeah, I would do that in one sitting, by the way.
Oh, like you're talking about those big gallons?
Do you actually finish it?
I could knock that out in like 3 or 4 tries if I wanted.
Interesting.
You're talking to a former fat man here. I mean, I could do it if I wanted.
Former fat man. What's that? Did you ever get past like 250?
I was 235, 240 at one point.
Okay.
I think I'm 190 now. Yeah. But
I do agree with Tyler's original point. I don't like birthday cakes. If I have to choose like a cake, like a Texas sheet cake is probably my favorite option because it's like thinner. Like the issue with me for cake is the ratio of cake to frosting is just always way off.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes cake can be super dry. So I'm not a big fan of birthday cake.
There's this one cake called the Russian honey cake that has like crumbs around it and then it's like infused with honey. It's actually really good. I'm pretty standard. I can just go for like a normal chocolate. Cookies and cream, not bad. Not a big fan of like birthday cake in general, though. Kind of plain.
Yeah, cheesecake is the way to go. It's so much better. There we go. That's the Q&A. I never thought we would be talking about the value of Ben and Jerry's ice cream on our show, but
look, it's like Tom Telesco, right? If you have the value of those later round picks, you don't want to be forced to spend them on Xander Horvath potentially if he was leveraged into that. But you just get better value in the store, better bang for your buck. Inflation, I don't know.
Inflation is pretty crazy right now, I guess, but I'm still not going to buy like just the store value jug of vanilla ice cream.
I mean, look, it gets the job done.
There you go.
Not when the girl craves chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta get
chocolate.
Well, I'm living by myself right now, so that's not a concern.
Just you eating a sad bowl of vanilla ice cream.
Yep. Or a whole pizza by myself. Could do that too.
Oh yeah. Always. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our Q&A today, guys. We will be going live tomorrow morning for our regular Sunday episode, so stay tuned for that one. If you are interested in joining our YouTube membership program or Patreon page, the links to those are in the description, so please go check that out. Daniel Ortiz, I guess, thanks for the compliment.
Oh, that needs to be our header.
It's like one of those like movie reviews where here's what the critics are saying, and it's like this movie stunk when I first watched it. Oh, terrible.
We're like a cult classic now. Like we were kind of a bad movie, but like over time you really like it.
We're kind of like The Room.
Yes, exactly.
That's what we are.
There you go. I guess that is just. Oh man, what a way to end the Q&A today. So hopefully everybody has a good.
About Ben and Jerry's ice cream.
I know. I know. Hopefully everyone has a good Saturday. We'll see you guys tomorrow for our last episode before training camp. So we'll talk to you then.